From Tampa, this is the Money, Power, and Politics 50th Anniversary Special. Starring Craig Patrick, Merissa Lynn, Charley Belcher, Evan Axelbank, B. Arthur, Diane Carroll, and the Jefferson Starship. Now, here's Craig.
Happy 50th! Woo! Look at that!
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Thank you. Boy, our 50th. Here we are. Never thought we'd get this far.
So glad to be here. But aren't you kind of sitting a little high up?
Well, yeah, it's the format. It's the talk show. This is how we do it, and I'm feeling kind of nostalgic tonight.
And we got a lot of things lined up.
We got a lot of clips. We surely do. And in fact, it takes us back. You've been with us since the start, from the very beginning. It takes us all the way back to 1953. Remember that little guessing game you used to do with our guests to figure out who they are?
Oh, yeah, really. What do you make of the state of politics today? Could you imagine Trump versus Clinton for the White House one day?
Holy Toledo, no.
But is it fun to watch?
Oh, yeah.
Are you Ronald Reagan?
Ronald Reagan is right.
And there you go. You nailed it.
Yeah, but I couldn't have done it. You're the one that scored the big interview. Do you remember that big one in 1974?
1970. Oh, that one.
That one.
The big one. Yeah,
That one.
we made some news on that.
I have never been a quitter.
So then how will you spend the remainder of your second term?
I must put the interests of America first. To continue to fight through the months ahead for my personal vindication.
You do realize we have the missing tapes, and Deep Throat will be joining us tomorrow night.
Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
Wow.
That was a big one there. And Charlie was actually directing that night. Charlie, remember how he left?
I remember the big when he left the studio and he said, "Goodbye, Craig. It's been real." And he walked right out of the studio. I remembered that was going to be historic.
Yeah, he seemed a little miffed that night.
Yeah, he was a little off, but we've had worse.
Yeah, remember that one with Vice President Bush that one time?
Wow. Well, there's a backstory there. It was the night before in the rehearsal. I was supposed to meet him, and I walked off set for like 7 minutes. I kept him waiting, and...
Yeah, I think he remembered that one.
Yeah, let's show that clip from the 1980s. But Mr. Vice President, Dan Quayle, really?
Everybody's admitted mistakes. I've admitted mistakes. And you want to dwell on them.
But you picked Dan Quayle.
There's nothing new here. I thought this was a news program.
But what does that say about your judgment?
How would you like it if I judged your career by those 7 minutes when you walked off the set in New York?
Craig, you looked a little different back then.
Yeah, well, styles change. You know, you haven't changed a bit since 1953.
What are you talking about, 1953?
Well, the whole bit with Reagan, 1953. We just showed it on our 50th anniversary special. Then Estes Kefauver, the whole thing with you, and Muskie came in and...
50th anniversary? That's not right. It's the 50th episode. Those are
50th episode, 50th anniversary, same difference.
No, they're not the same difference. They're completely opposite.
No. We shot the pilot last year.
Pilot? That means it's the 51st episode. 50 plus 1, 51.
So it's not even 50?
Not a 50th anniversary. Not...
Charlie, what say you?
It's a 50th anniversary. It's a 50th anniversary special if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, so there you have it. So what else should we show?
Well, if you want to be nostalgic, you can always dig up the old Dean Martin roast.
Why not? Let's do it.
Donald Trump likes to sue people. He should sue whoever did that to his face.
I call him Little Marco. He's a nice guy.
He's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2". And you know what they say about men with small hands?
I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I think Charlie wants some roast.
Never overcooked, always served perfectly. I love roast. Wait, what was your question?
You know, I used to do some impressions of those guys.
You still do impressions of those guys. Take a look.
Let me assert my firm belief. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Aggression is defeated, the war is over.
Well, as I said, good night, God bless you, and God bless America.
That's the job of the sidekick, to tell you you're doing a great impression, even if you're not.
All right, thank you, Charlie. Hey, remember when the NFL asked us to host the draft this year?
That was awesome, and I really like Cleveland's pick.
With the 8th...
There we go. We got Darren.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's try that one more time, Darren. Try to say that with a straight face.
With the 8th pick, the Cleveland Browns select Boris Yeltsin.
Yes! Oh!
See, Charlie likes the pick.
That was a good pick, but my favorite was Tampa Bay's pick.
With the 9th pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Jeb Bush.
Yeah, Marissa, I didn't really see that one coming. Let's see a show of hands out there. Who think that was a kind of a weird pick? Yeah, that's what I thought. Especially after somebody hacked his Twitter page and posted this unflattering picture. It looks as if he may have been smoking something. Yeah, and by the way, we had Jeb Bush on our show, of course, a couple of times this year.
Yeah, remember when he tried his hand at stand-up comedy?
Oh, yeah.
It's cooler to do it diagonally rather than straight up. And it's better to do it higher than lower because you look skinnier. Am I right?
Yeah, that did fire up the crowd.
Hey, remember when you read that fake story to all those kids?
Well, we do that like every week.
Mr. Ted said the world...
What did he say?
The whole world's on fire. The world is on fire. Yes. Your world is on fire.
He said the world is a beautiful place and he loves kids very much.
And do kids love him?
Hey, let's hop out of my street. We're taking it.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going through all that old stuff, what about that Civil War series?
Oh, yeah, we had like a 7-part. What would happen if Ken Burns made a documentary on 2016? Yeah, take a look.
The resistance regrouped in their northern stronghold of Wisconsin and blasted the Trumpians as they crossed the border.
Establishment, preachers, and talk show hosts unite. For today and forever, our battle cry is never Trump! Never Trump! Never Trump!
Never Trump!
Trump's loss in Wisconsin gave the resistance false hope. They charged into Gettysburg and never came home.
And we can't forget about all those new segments we're rolling out, too.
Oh, yeah, like political squares. Do you have any other political jokes for us?
I don't approve of political jokes. I've seen too many of them get elected.
That's funny, Vanessa.
Oh.
Rufus, well done.
Be careful, Vanessa. I will turn your water off.
Yeah, and you're the bottom right square on that, but didn't you get your own show after that?
This is Judge Merissa.
Yeah, we run that one on Tuesday nights.
Tuesday nights.
So, Mr. Patrick, what side does your show take?
No, our show takes no side. We're an equal opportunity harasser.
So you harass people? What is wrong with you?
No. That's a figure of speech. We investigate, we fact check, we call out, and we lampoon politicians on both sides to shine the light and try to keep them honest.
So you have a light?
No, that's a figure of speech too.
Enough with the cliches.
He has a lot of those, Your Honor.
And you are a fair judge no matter what Donald Trump says. Yeah, and and if Charlie likes that, you know he'll like this.
I like that.
And of course, we always get a kick out of when Charlie reads your email.
Oh yeah, well, so many clips on that. I don't know where to start. Hello, this is Craig. Yeah, Mr. Trump? Yeah, I'll be right there. Bye.
He gets the coolest phone calls. Oh, look at that. He left his email up. Well, Craig's a pretty busy guy. I'll help him. I'll help him return his emails.
But well, wait, Mr. Trump!
Mr. Trump, hey,
these idiots on television.
He just left.
Give me a break.
He just left.
He's watching the Charley Belcher bit. He wasn't very happy about it.
What Belcher bit?
The one that's on TV right now.
It's on now?
Yeah.
What's he doing?
Making fun of you.
Oh.
You're fired.
Let's see, one more here.
Looking at those Charley bits makes me want to go through our mail.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's send it over to Charley Belcher.
So, you loved it, and I'm glad. And I don't know what the future holds, except hopefully, Dana, you email us and put it in the body of the email.
He'll go through a fresh batch from the Money, Power, and Politics mailbag when we come back.
Money Power Politics audience. Charley Belcher here, and you know, last week we set up our very own mailbox, MPP mailbag at yahoo.com, so I don't even have to break into Craig's email anymore to see what you guys are thinking. Shall we get to the email? Yes, we shall. I am so excited. Our very first email ever to our MPP mailbag at yahoo.com comes from Dana Stejkowski? Dana. Comes from Dana. Now, here's the problem, though, Dana. It looks like you put the entire email in the subject line because the email was blank, but the subject line said, "Loved your rendition of the RNC and DNC. Keep up the good work. It's somehow sad and weirdly hilarious now. Wonder what future..." And then that's all that was on the subject line. And the email was blank. So, you loved it, and I'm glad. And I don't know what the future holds, except hopefully, Dana, you email us and put it in the body of the email. But you get credit for being the first email to our new mailbag. Thanks. All right, what else do we have here? R. Glenn Coleman says, I'm writing to ask what has been done by Attorney General Bondi, Pam Bondi's talking about, to hold Frontier Communications accountable for promises made over a month ago to provide reliable cable service. Later in the email, he says, Fox 13, your job is to provide news that is important to your viewers. This subject is a sore spot for many in your viewing area. Please give consideration to following through with Bondi and give us results against promises made. Well, R. Glenn Coleman, we just happen to have a consumer reporter who is on this very story, and her name is Sorboni Banerjee. And here she is.
Fancy meeting you here.
Yes, welcome to Money Power Politics.
Thank you.
A lot of people I know are talking about this Frontier issue.
Yeah.
R. Glenn Coleman wants to make sure we are holding Attorney General Pam Bondi accountable for her promises that I guess she made on this subject.
Right. When the switchover first happened from Verizon to Frontier, that's when the complaints were just through the roof. And that's when Attorney General Bondi came out and said, you know what, we're on it. We are tracking things. Then we had another little problem. Last weekend before, there was another pocket of service that was out. So we reached out, we wanted to know what's the latest, you know, and I have an answer. Mr. Coleman, here we have an answer for you. Good afternoon. We've been in contact with Frontier about the recent service disruptions. Any customers who are continuing to have issues regarding Frontier should contact our office. So if you want to contact her, that's myfloridalegal.com. myfloridalegal.com, you type up a complaint. But I know then you're like, okay, well, what happens? Really, does that go anywhere? I wanted to know how many complaints were actually being filed. They said they got 1,675 complaints about Frontier in May, down to 502 in June, and then 276 in July. So it seems like the complaints are at least going down, but that's not enough because they're looking into it, but we want to know what Frontier is doing as well, right?
Right.
I know a lot of people are frustrated because they call and they're stuck on hold, waiting for their answers.
Right.
I did hear back with the last slow network issue. They said the slow network issues that some customers experienced have been corrected, and they identified the network problem and then rerouted the traffic. But we're still getting calls in, and the biggest complaint, Charlie, is that it's slow. It's supposed to be, you know, super high speed.
You're paying for speed, but it doesn't seem like it.
Exactly. So I have made the request to meet with managers and to go behind the scenes to see exactly how it works and to explain that, because I think to the average person, you know, we just see that little chart and you can go to downdetector.com and see, you know, what the heck is going on in your area, but you want to know what are they actually doing. So I'm waiting to hear back on that.
Sorboni Banerjee on the story. If people want to email you directly, do you have a consumer reporter email, or is it your name?
It's just me. So if you want to
put that right here on the screen, magically like this. Sorboni.banerjee@foxtv.com.
Exactly.
All right.
Find me on Facebook, Twitter. I'm on it.
She's all over the place.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for stopping by.
Okay, well,
Sorry
bye,
you have to
bye,
go.
bye.
But you do, because I got to get back to the mail. Here, Susan Jasper is talking about the Hollywood Squares segment that we did this week. She says Hollywood Squares was hysterical, but a great learning experience too. Thank you very much. Chris Pugh says, please stop featuring polls that exclude Governor Gary Johnson. America needs to see the full story. Yes, Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate. A lot of people who are looking at the Libertarian ticket would agree with you, Chris. And I know it gets sticky there with which polls are being used and what's being talked about, so good point to bring up. All right, how about time for one more? Let's see. Rebecca says, never seen anything like this before. Beautiful. I'm loving it. Yes, I'm not sure anything like Money Power Politics has ever been put on TV before. That's why we're trying it, to see if you like it. And we So far, I think you do. So thank you very much. Keep those emails coming. mppmailbag@yahoo.com. Somebody here will answer it. Maybe even right here on TV. All right, Craig, back to you. Gotta go.
Thank you, Charlie. Coming up, our pollster Matt Towery wrote the book on news vesting, and he'll explain how you can make money by watching the news.
Okay, well, please welcome Matt Towery, our pollster, but also the author of News Vesting. Explain to us, for starters, what news vesting is.
Well, I basically decided to figure out, taking all this news that I watch and the polls that I look at, and figure out how I could use that in my investing, in my own personal finances, using, of course, an investment consultant, someone who's qualified and knows how to be a broker. You don't want to do it by yourself. But there is a way to distill news and to find ways to find good companies that you can invest in and take advantage of things before news becomes old news.
Conventional wisdom, though, is if you see it on the news, it's already too late.
Well, and that's true, Craig, unless you're really making this sort of a thing that you do every day. You're staying on top of stories as they start to develop and trends as they start to develop. You'll find that you're ahead of those, and that's when you want to invest or when you want to get out.
You foresaw the crash and wrote about it of 2008 well before a lot of other people, just about anybody else did. How did you do it?
Mid-2000s, I'm going through Miami. My driver, I'm asking him a question. I said, all of these buildings, they have the exact same lights. And he said, that's because they're all empty. The city has made them put up these lights in each one of these windows so they don't look like they're desolate and it doesn't ruin the skyline. And I got home and I immediately called my broker and said, it's time for us to start thinking about getting out of the market, because if it's collapsing there, the housing market is going to start collapsing everywhere. And of course, it did within a matter of a year or so.
Give us an example of what's going on today that viewers could key into.
The Michigan Consumer Index, which is one of the few polls or surveys that really can tell you anything. If you really look at that index, when it gets up to about the mid-90s, and it really means that people think things are going great, that's when you really have to start thinking about, are things really that great? Because almost every time it's gotten into that range or above, we've either had a stock market correction, which means the major indexes go down below 10% or so, or we've had a recession.
Which means, among other factors, it's not the only factor,
that's right,
you should put money into or take money out of what?
I always say when you see something like this, you take a little cash and put it aside, because the real concept of investing is, how do I invest money when it is down? That's when you want to be putting in. You always say, you know, sell high, buy low. Well, in order to buy low, you got to make sure you have something to buy with.
Matt Towery, thank you for your time.
Sure, Craig.
Coming up, we'll focus on the race, show you how the election map has shifted yet again, and what to expect here in Florida.
Well, President Obama says he's making progress in taking care of our veterans. But even as the president says the VA is improving, there are some new questions about where some of the money is really going. And Kevin Cork has the numbers.
We've got a lot more work to do.
President Obama at the Disabled American Veterans Convention in Atlanta, highlighting improvements in veterans care during his time in office.
But working together over these past 8 years, we've delivered real progress for our veterans. And we can't let up.
In his remarks, the president thanked veterans for their service and tried to move beyond the headline-grabbing scandals over lengthy wait times for veterans seeking medical care.
During my presidency, we will have increased funding for veterans by more than 85%.
But while the administration was spending more than ever on veterans, it was also spending more of your tax dollars on art for veterans facilities. And we're talking about millions, like the $6 million spent on art at a facility in Palo Alto, California, including more than $1 million doled out for decorative rock. In all, nearly $20 million spent between 2004 and 2014. The spending, laid out in a report by the watchdog group Open the Books, alleges the VA spent nearly $18 million of the $20 million during the Obama administration alone, including millions spent on art during the VA scandal in Phoenix, where dozens of veterans died waiting for care.
No blind veteran can see a fancy sculpture, and every veteran deserves to be able to see a doctor.
Critics, like Open the Book's Adam Andrzejewski, says it's about priorities.
The VA is violating the sacred social bond to care for the warrior who fought so hard for us. And that's why rooting out of waste, fraud, and duplication is so important.
On Capitol Hill, Illinois Republican Senator Mark Kirk took notice. He wrote Veteran Affairs Secretary Bob McDonald to point out that despite a moratorium, the VA still spent $1.8 million on art in 2015. And in a statement, Kirk said, quote, "I'm calling for an immediate moratorium on art purchases until a congressionally approved process is formally instated, so the American people are informed on how their tax dollars are spent."
And another expense here, a fake Christmas tree, $21,000 for a 27-foot artificial Christmas tree that was delivered to a facility in Ohio. We have much more on our YouTube channel. Check out Craig Patrick's Money, Power, and Politics on YouTube. Once you search, click subscribe at the top of the page. And with this, you can catch up on extended interviews, investigations, and prior shows you may have missed. Right now, the movement continues to favor Hillary Clinton in the presidential race. An average of polling has shown her up around 7 points. But Donald Trump, while he's had a rough week, says he has time to correct and make up the difference. And he's certainly right about that. For example, Dukakis had a big lead over Bush in '88. We know how that one played out. Thank you so much for joining us. This was our 50th episode. We framed it as an anniversary. We will see you again on Monday night. Thank you again for joining us.